We have by far the safest food supply in the entire world.
The safest food supply in the world.
Let's remember one thing. We have the safest food supply in the world right here in the U.S.
It's laughable. We don't have the safest food system in the world.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. What if I told you this salmonella causes 1.35 million illnesses, 26,500 hospitalizations, and 420 deaths every year, according to the CDC? You surprised? So was I. That's until I watched Poisoned, The Dirty Truth About Your Food, Everything You Need to Know, the documentary that appears on Netflix. This was an eye-opening documentary, and I'd like to share some highlights with you in hopes that you will watch it and pick up helpful things for yourself. And I also will be making some accompanying videos on some essential points that I gained from this documentary that can be helpful for you in your everyday life and help you to protect you and your family. But before I get started, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this, as well as my other videos on faith, health, and beauty all year round. Now, in this documentary film, filmmaker Stephanie Soechtig examines the food industry in the U.S. and investigates how its systematic fractures lead to outbreaks of foodborne pathogens and deadly consequences. The inspiration for this documentary is Bill Marler, who is a food and safety attorney and advocate, who was heavily involved and instrumental involving the first major U.S. E. coli outbreak in 1993, called E. coli 0157, and that led to a number of children's deaths and a renewed sense of urgency about food regulations. And a lot of the regulations we have now in place are because of Bill Marler and the systems that were put into place to help prevent this type of tragedy from happening again. In 93, I don't recall this happening, probably because I was younger, and to see the horrific, and there's no way of putting it, outcome of this dangerous strain and the effects it had on many lives was absolutely flabbergasting to me. Now, first, if you've heard of the book called Poison, The True Story of the Deadly E. coli Outbreak That Changed the Way Americans Eat by Jeff Benedict, this documentary is based on that as well. I haven't read it yet, but now that I know about it, I definitely will be seeing if it's available at my local library and giving it a read. There were lots of people who were involved in this particular documentary. They even had interviews with some officials from government agencies such as Mike Taylor, who was a former USDA Food and Safety Inspection Service Administrator. They also spoke with a couple of current deputy inspectors under the USDA, Sandra Eskin, I think, and Frank Yanis. And it's just amazing when you watch that we don't sit and think that a lot of things we eat are compromised, and we really depend on the stores, the producers, the stores, the transporters, the suppliers and things to keep our food clean. I don't think that's unreasonable, but we can't expect the full burden to go on them. One thing I really learned from this documentary that has left an impression on me, even more so than I think already, is that Bill Maher says control your own environment. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know I have created videos showing you how I wash fruits and vegetables and different greens and other foods that I bring into the home. Regardless of where I buy them, I cleanse them and sanitize them. Sometimes with fragrance-free dish soap and water, sometimes with baking soda. I was really surprised to learn that washing melons the same way I do is actually highly recommended. So you haven't seen these videos, I'll attach playlists so you can click on that. And they're not very long, but they'll really be helpful in giving you step-by-step instructions on how to make your produce and greens more sanitary and hopefully safer to clean, based on research into cleansing those products. So
All these products are likely contaminated.
things like E. coli, salmonella are things that come into contact, unfortunately, with a lot of our produce, as well as the meats if you're meat eaters. And this is being revealed due to some farms having chickens and cows and other animals, and then nearby they've got the fields of produce growing, and then the waste from the animals flows and leaches into the ground where the produce is growing, therefore contaminating the produce. There have been so many recalls and outbreaks that it is impossible for me to go through each and every one of them. But basically it says that the United States suffers through outbreaks each week, up to 36 every 7 days, and these affect over 48 million people a year. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of outbreaks. And I guess the big question is, are the food and agricultural industries taking accountability for their mistakes? Well, based on some of the laws we have in place, I would say yes. And some of them have also become more transparent and letting you know how they go about following the directions and the mandates that are being put in place to help prevent these outbreaks from being even more common than they are now. And there are a number of food agencies that exist in order to help that to stay a reality. And of course, you're familiar with the Food and Drug Administration, the USDA, but there are also other organizations that you can see on screen that are involved as well. So the biggest takeaways that I got from this, based on the true stories and the documented footage, are four major things that I'd like to share with you in this video, and then again I'll have some additional videos to complement this in order to help you and your family stay safe. One is the first one I already mentioned: control your own environment. Don't look and expect where you get your food from, whom supplies it to you, and the stores you buy it from to keep it safe and sanitary. You have to assume that it needs cleaning, that it needs sanitizing, whether it's produce, fruits, lettuce, any type of meat or poultry. You have to assume that it needs cleaning.
If I buy chicken at the grocery store, should I assume it's safe for me?
Your primary assumption should be that it contains pathogens such as Salmonella and Campylobacter.
There are 15 federal agencies that in one form or another are tasked with food safety regulation.
Now I want to quickly mention that I read years ago where it was recommended that you don't wash your meat because you might contaminate your sink. Well, guess what? You have disinfectant to clean your sink. The worst thing that you can do is leave your meat without it being cleaned and dried before you cook with it. Because while it's being traveling and while it's being contained, it's being sitting. And it's possible that if there are any microbes or bacteria that are on it, they could have multiplied on the meat. Also, you don't know how many hands have touched that meat. So I wash every type of meat I end up making for my family. I don't eat meat personally, but my friends and family still do. I wash it all. And when I'm finished washing, I take a disinfectant and spray the sink and clean it out. I also always sanitize the countertops in every place I've had the meat, and I wash my hands. It's become second nature to me. I don't consider it an inconvenience. I really don't. The second thing that I picked up that I think is really important from this video is that government agencies are doing quite a lot. And this is basically my opinion, to help to curb it. But they can't be expected to do everything. We have to be accountable for ourselves as well. Yes, you want specific standards, minimum standards, and even better to be followed, but you also have to be proactive and make sure you're taking those precautions for you and your family. And yes, it's an extra step and it's extra work, but again, aren't you and your family worth it? I think so. I hope you do too. A third thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people who appeared in this video, a lot of the experts and people who were involved, such as Bill Marler, as I mentioned, the food safety attorney, John Kobayashi, former CDC and Washington State epidemiologist, Darren Detweiler, professor and food safety advocate Lance Price, Marion Nestle, who is actually a molecular biologist, and more, stated that a lot of the things, a lot of the foods that have come up for recalls, they don't even eat anymore. They absolutely avoid eating particular foods. Do I recommend you do that? I think it's a personal choice. But what I do recommend is if you are eating and ingesting foods that are higher on the list for contamination, then those are foods you should really be cautious with and make sure that you scrupulously clean them as much as possible. And the fourth thing that I took away from this is that poultry, beef, turkey, pork, all of these meats that you eat, every single type of meat is a potential source of Salmonella and E. coli contamination. It's a source of sickness. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it is. In this video, major suppliers of meat and chicken were contacted. We have Purdue, we have Pilgrim, Tyson Foods, and Sanderson Farms. And they did a control check on some of their products. Every single company had some type of contamination in their foods. So none of them were immune. None of them avoided it. However, Purdue had the lowest amounts or the lowest percentage of contamination in their foods. Me, when I'm buying chicken, I stick with Purdue, Bell & Evans, Pilgrim's Pride, and Mary's. I just personally don't like Tyson because Tyson's had so many recalls, and the constant recalls just for me makes me not trust Tyson. It's a matter of personal choice. If you are an eater of Tyson foods and you feel they're trustworthy, then I'm happy for you. I personally just don't. Now, 17% of the samples tested positive with Salmonella and 29% of Purdue samples tested positive. That was the lowest percentage. Again, all of these companies had contamination. Now, Purdue maintains that its Salmonella test results are generally aligned with the industry averages, and the company says it aggressively seeks to reduce the prevalence of Salmonella in its products, which is a great step in the right direction. And the last thing I want to mention is that as a result of this documentary, and after Attorney Marler's petition, the USDA decided to ban Salmonella in some chicken products. But the problem is far from solved, as Salmonella is still legally allowed in most chicken products sold in the U.S. Yes, you heard correctly, allowed. So again, the best thing you can do is be proactive in washing and sanitizing your meats, your produce, your fruits, and your vegetables. There's even been contamination, if you remember, in peanuts some time ago. The major producers, Skippy, Jif, and Peter Pan. Personally, since then, I don't eat any of those brands, and I tend to buy organic peanut butter. There are some items that I just won't buy conventional. Peanut butter is one of them, and I don't buy peanut butter that has a lot of different ingredients added. I just want the peanuts, and if there's oil in it from the peanuts, great, but I don't want all these other things that don't belong in it. I just want peanut butter, and I want to know that the companies have taken precautions in making sure the peanuts are safe for me and my family to eat. And if you would like me to tell you the brands that I buy in another video, let me know in the comments below. So, why do I think you should watch this? Because it's eye-opening and you will get so much information that will be helpful for you and your family. It may be unpleasant, especially for younger viewers, so if you have younger children, I probably would recommend you allow them to skip the first 15 minutes of the documentary and then bring them in to see the rest of it so that they can be aware and knowledgeable about what's going on and what they're eating. And remember, what we teach them when they're younger and becomes habitual, they take into their adult lives and beyond, and it can be helpful for them staying healthy their entire lives. So,
right now, the government is not
if you have already seen Poison, let me know what you think in the comments below. Was it eye-opening for you? Did you enjoy to some extent? Did you take notes like I did? Did you do extra research as well? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, it's available right now exclusively to watch on Netflix. Again, it's called Poison, The Dirty Truth About Your Food. Watch it. Make yourself informed, fully aware of what's going on, proactive about taking care of you and your family with food items we just basically think are benign and safe to eat. Just assume it's not. Control your environment. That's the biggest takeaway from this video and this documentary. So, if this is being helpful for you, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this, as well as my other videos on faith, health, and beauty all year round. Also, keep a lookout for a video on the highest risk foods for foodborne illness so you can know them quickly and take proactive precautions as well. Another video will be on my 10 extra steps in helping to make your foods more sanitary. I'll have another one on salmonella in chicken specifically, and how to clean your chicken and meats to help make them be more sanitary. And last but not least, I will give you the top bullet points that I got from this video, so you can just look at them and it'll be helpful for you. Quick study, and you can print it out or even take a screenshot, or even take screenshots so that you can keep it on hand. So, thank you so much for joining me and for watching this. Again, I hope this blesses you and your family. Continue to be happy, healthy, and whole.
I ate a salad and now I have long-term health effects from it.